How's your day been, and what's life like there in the hotel?
Okay. It's been busy, man. I was at my mom's place in Tilsonburg this morning. I don't know if you know where that is. Like an hour and a half from Toronto. So I drove from there to the gym, did my last training session, and then came over to the hotel here and unpacked and stuff. My flight's like early tomorrow morning, 8:15, so I got to be up and out of here by like 5:30-ish.
And you're a few days out now. How are you feeling? Obviously, a lot this past few months have been very, very weird for most people. So, how are you feeling just a few days out?
Good, man. Like just getting the last few pounds off and that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm ready to go.
How was the weight cut? I mean, I speak for me personally. I put on an additional few pounds the past couple of months. Was it a little bit trickier to get those last few pounds off?
No, I was probably walking around like 2 or 3 pounds heavier in camp, maybe. So like an extra like week or two of dieting, leading into like the water loading and whatnot. But no, it's always pretty easy for me. I'm not a huge middleweight. I don't really cut a ton of weight, so yeah, it's never too bad.
So it's been a little over a year now since you last fought. How are you feeling in terms of the layoff? Like, how do you feel that's going to affect your performance? Do you think it's going to benefit it? Do you think it's going to take you a little while to get the feel for things?
Dude, honestly, for me, like my career has been so inconsistent. Like I have 9 fights in like 5 or 6 years or whatever. So I think these long layoffs are like normal for me at this point, which sucks. But yeah, it is what it is.
What was the reason for this long layoff? I know there was a couple fights there that I think fell through. What was the main reason why you've been on the sidelines for so long?
Yeah, so I was supposed to fight for BTC back in November, and that got canceled like 3 days out from weigh-ins, I think. Like I was already like pretty dehydrated and feeling crappy and like ready to fight. And the commission didn't approve my opponent, and like on that short notice, you're not going to find somebody else. So that happened, and then I was supposed to fight the end of January, and pretty much same thing, like 3 days out from weigh-ins. Again, I'm like cutting weight, I'm ready to go, I'm booking my hotel and everything. And Buddy blows out his knee, and again, they're not going to find a replacement on that like short of a notice. So 2 fights canceled like 2 or 3 months apart, and then COVID happens and everything gets sidelined. So like it was just a chain of shitty events.
Yeah, you're now 7-2 as a professional at middleweight, which is overall really good record. I mean, as a welterweight or as a lightweight, you usually look for people with higher or more fights, but at 7-2,
hmm
that's really good, especially going into UFC or Bellator. How far out do you think you are from maybe getting a call for the UFC? Obviously, you've competed on the Contender Series before.
Yeah, hopefully close, man. Like you said, I was on Contender Series, so I think that means like I'm on the radar. Like I think that means if I won the fight, they were willing to sign me. And this dude that I'm fighting next is another Contender Series guy. So like 2 guys that are right at that level. I think I should be pretty close.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on Bruno Asis's opponent? I mean, obviously he's competed overseas in Bellator, and like you just, or for Brave, sorry, and like you just said, he did also compete on the Contender Series. So there's a lot like really riding on this, because like you said, I mean, you're on their radar. What's your thoughts on him as an opponent?
Yeah, he's solid. Super good jits guy. He's a black belt, good on the ground, got a few wins by sub. Good judo as well. Like he's got some nice throws and stuff. But I think it's a good matchup for me. I think I got a way to beat him for sure.
So I ask this a lot, and especially going into fights. Do you do a lot of watching your opponent, or do you leave that mainly for your coaches?
Mostly to my coaches. I mean, I want to watch the guy and like have a rough idea of what he does. And like most guys don't really change like a lot from fight to fight, right? So like I don't need to study the tape too much. I want to have like a general idea, but I think it's more about you than about your opponent, right? Like you gotta get yourself ready more than like trying to see what they're doing in their past fights and exploit something.
I'll talk a little bit about your two losses. I mean, you're 7-2, and I think a lot of people learn a lot from their losses. You see guys that go undefeated throughout their entire careers, but they don't have that those two losses that really kind of help you grow. What did you learn from those two losses to both Sean Brady and Brendan Allen?
hmm Um, well, the Sean Brady one, that was like fairly early in my career, but I think I was on like a 10 fight win streak. Like my Miami career, I lost my first fight and then I won 8 in a row and then I won two pro fights. So I think I probably just kind of thought I was like invincible. So that was learning that I'm not. And then the Brendan Allen fight, I've said this a few times. It sounds a little bit silly because I kind of got my ass kicked like pretty quickly in that fight. But I felt like I could hang with him. I felt like I deserved to be in there. And now watching him like kind of tear through the UFC, it's good. It gives me some confidence that I deserve to be there too.
Do you feel like is it almost bittersweet knowing that you could be in their shoes? You know, obviously Brady's doing really well. He's still undefeated. And Brendan Allen is on a tear. He's probably, I think, one of the best fighters not ranked in the UFC, all divisions. Is it a little bit bittersweet knowing, like, oh, man, if I had one of those wins, there's a good chance I could have been in their spot?
Yeah, for sure. But like that's fighting. It's gonna happen. There'll probably be other losses I take, and guys will go on to do good things. I'm sure some guys that I beat see what I'm doing and are kind of like jealous or thinking that they could be here. So yeah, it's part of the sport, ups and downs.
Yeah. There's a man. These weeks there's a lot of activity going on in the UFC. More specifically, the Contender Series. A teammate and someone else who's signed by Dodge there. Anthony Romero is representing pretty much Canada. Him and TJ Laramie. What do you think it'll really take for I guess a swing of Canadian talent into the UFC?
That's a good question. It's weird because we're all like dispersed. We don't have like a big Canadian gym. I guess there's like TriStar, but a lot of guys there aren't even Canadians. But like in the States, you see like a bunch of these like big name gyms that have a bunch of guys, and there's already like 10 guys in the UFC, so other guys come to train at that gym and they kind of have that in. But I think a lot of us are like kind of all over the place, right? Like Laramie trains like out in Windsor, and I think he goes to the States and stuff. Me and Romero and Jasmine are at the one gym, but then like I think a lot of the Canadian talents like spread out. I don't know if it would take like one gym to get in a few fighters to kind of like have that in. You know what I mean?
Yep, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gavin Tucker's from my hometown. I'm in Halifax as well.
Yeah,
So, and like Tanner Bozer's on the other side of
exactly. Everyone's all over, right?
Yep. It's a massive country, but there doesn't really seem to be a lot of talent overall. Well,
Hmm.
and I find like with the United States, there's almost like that wrestling background. You know, like a lot of people are taking wrestling in high school.
For
In
sure.
Canada, we don't really have that as an option. So
Yeah.
what was it that really got you into the sport?
I think just watching it growing up, I had an older brother that was into UFC and watching. He had bought a couple DVDs, and I found one of them and started watching it. And he actually started training before me too, and I joined a gym with him, and just kind of like stuck with it ever since I was young.
Another question I have to ask. I mean, you've obviously competed in front of no fans before on the Contender Series. How do you think that's going to impact your performance? Are you someone who hears the audience and kind of like feeds off of it, or are you someone who kind of like manages to drown all that out?
Yeah, I've been asked this question a few times. Honestly, I didn't notice a difference at Contender Series. I didn't tell a difference. Maybe it's from fighting on like smaller regional shows. The crowd is like not normally like huge like a UFC crowd. Like maybe if you were used to like tens of thousands of people there and then you went to no audience, you'd notice it. But yeah, no, I didn't notice a big difference.
Do you think it's going to favor you being able to hear both the commentary and both corners?
Um, you know what? I can always hear my corner pretty well too. I've never like struggled to hear them or like not responded to them or anything. So yeah, again, I don't think it's going to be a big change for me.
I'll have to ask a little bit about Canadian MMA. We're both being Canadian. Um, George St. Pierre getting inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. I think it's long overdue, and I'm kind of surprised he wasn't already in there.
Yeah.
Have you ever had the chance to meet George, and what's your thoughts on him and his legacy overall?
Yeah, I met him once or twice at TriStar, just kind of like in passing, like he was training and I was training. We said hi in the change room and whatever. But yeah, man, phenomenal athlete, like one of the best, if not the best of all time in MMA. Super good dude too, like no steroids or drugs or any of that stuff. Like no news stories coming out, like hit and runs or DUIs or any of this stuff. Just seems like a good, like overall dude.
I want to touch on that a little bit as well. I mean, I've spoke to Matt Dodge, and I spoke to Jasmine and Andre Ewell as well. A lot of people signed there by Dodge Sports, and the one thing I noticed is you're all down to earth. But one of the things you see in news today, especially with guys like Mike Perry, Conor McGregor, like it's almost like negative attention is good attention. How do you kind of stay grounded through all that, knowing that maybe a bigger opportunity comes if you go out there and make negative headlines?
That's a good question. I'm just gonna have to play it safe when I'm making my bad decisions. I'm just gonna have to make sure there's no cameras around to find out. Um, but no, like you said, I think the Dodge crew is like a good crew of people. We're all well behaved, I guess you could say. I don't want to say we're boring because I know we like to have our fun too. But no, definitely no getting in bar fights or getting arrested or anything like that. As far as I know, anyways. Maybe they're just making their good decision or bad decisions at good times too.
So I've made the little platform. I started this back in March, just interviewing fighters. But the platform I got in MMA was based on making predictions for fights, as well as matchmaking. Is there anybody like in the UFC or in Bellator who you're like, you know what, it would be my dream to compete against him someday, whether it's realistic, not realistic, current fighter, former fighter? Is there anybody you wish you could have tested your skills against?
Um, hmm. Maybe like a CM Punk because that would have the most eyes on it, and I think I could match up pretty well against him.
I like that answer. And another big fight this weekend, and Stipe versus DC 3.
Yeah,
What's your prediction for that one?
that's a tough one. Uh, I don't know if it was like 2 years ago, I would lean towards DC. I think he was like the better overall fighter, but he's getting old. Uh, doesn't look to be in the best shape, doing a lot of commentary and travel and that kind of stuff. I'll probably go with Stipe.
I like it. And I'll ask you a couple more questions, and then I'll let you go. For people who haven't watched you fight before, what would you tell them about both your fight style, and if there's one fight that you could point at and be like, watch that fight that sums me up as a fighter, which fight would it be?
I'd say my fight style is kind of like grindy. Like it's not always pretty to watch. I do like a lot of wall work, like grinding people out on the fence, like knees, dirty boxing, that kind of stuff. Um, if I had to say one fight to watch that was the coolest, it would be my first fight at BTC versus Alex Bollet. That was like, I don't think I fought exactly like my style, and I got a knockout on the feet. If you want to see one fight that probably sums up my career a bit more, it would be my other fight at BTC against Joe Valle.
I like it. So overall, what's your prediction for this upcoming weekend?
I'm gonna get the W.
All right, I like it. Also, how are you going to stay safe? You're going to Florida. You're going to like the epicenter of coronavirus. What are you
Yeah.
doing? What sorts of procedures are you doing to make sure you don't catch anything?
Typical stuff, wearing my mask, washing my hands. We're actually there for like a very short time, so like I don't think I'm gonna come in contact with tons of people. Like we get there tomorrow later in the afternoon. Wednesday's weigh-ins, Thursday I fight, and I'm out of there Friday. So it's only a few days. I'll probably be in the hotel room most of the time, so not too concerned.
All right, I like it. All the best. Stay safe, man, and all the best on Thursday night.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
All right, man. All the best.
Bye.